Hey, everybody on here, and I just wanted to make some comments, do a quick little cut here on what is happening with the Truckers Convoy from the code perspective. Now, really, when I start looking at these things, I have to ask myself, is Justin Trudeau sealing his fate through this Truckers Convoy? Is this going to be the thing that's going to break him and bring him down? And there's a lot of code patterns that are very interesting around here. And I've kind of sat back to watch to see what's going to happen, to see how big this was going to go. And of course, there's always caution when you're dealing with these types of things. When you have people that are coming in and they are converging on a place, they're doing a protest on a place, of course, there's always going to be a few people that are going to show up because all of your corrupt people are also looking for when these protests show up, when they're going to go, when they're going to start. They know when they're going to happen because they're following these people and they're, paying attention to the videos that are being put out and all of those sorts of things. So yes, it is natural that almost all of these that get big like this are going to have some sort of infiltration on them. However, for the most part, and there's been no just outrageous things happening, what we're finding is I think Trudeau is going to lose a lot of support from within on this, and we're already seeing it happen. So basically what it is a bunch of truckers, they were issued with a mandate for vaccines. And the truckers said, look, this isn't right. We're crossing borders. We need to be able to come and go. And so a lot of truckers said, not going to happen. And it wasn't even so much that they are totally against vaccine mandates, or vaccines themselves, but the mandates. It's that shutting down of freedom. It's shutting down the right to choose what's going on. And that's what they're really standing up against in this situation. And it's very interesting how some of this has unfolded because it started as a few truckers saying, hey, we're going to park up on Parliament Hill. And that's in Ottawa, Canada, by the way, for those that don't know, that's in the Ontario province. And we're going to sit up there and we're going to hold things up. Now, I have a couple of different things on here because on one hand, I can totally support the truckers and I can totally say, absolutely, these are the types of things we need to be doing. This is what needs to happen to make a big enough statement to bring our freedoms back, to help remind people what we're really standing up for and what's really going on beneath the surface in a lot of things. And it's a big eye opener. And then on another hand, I also have to say, how many people are going to be affected by this? How many people are going to be impacted by not having something or not getting something? And this is where it gets to be tricky. This is where it gets to be very interesting in things, and you walk some fine lines. But at some point, these bigger statements have to be made. So what I want to do is delve into some of these code aspects that are going on around this freedom convoy, as they call it, the truckers convoy going on, and being in that area, because there have been a couple of other trucker convoys that have been starting up in different parts of the world, but they're not having the impact that the Canadian one is. And that is so interesting when you start to look at things from the code perspective in things, because where Canada is at, where some of these other countries are at, that all has different impacts. So these locations we know in codes can influence whether something is very successful or whether it's not. And when you look at the many other protests that have gone on around the world with people showing up in the government areas, speaking their voice, standing up for things, holding up signs, even if you look at the nurses, even if you look at what the nurses' protests were like versus this truckers convoy, this is getting so much more noticed. And so this is a very interesting thing when we get down to it. Now let's start to look just at the beginning of this. And what's very interesting, by the way, with this is that as this started to grow and as this started to build, as I said, it started off with a few truckers and then it grew, and a lot of truckers became unemployed as of somewhere, I think around the 15th. I don't remember the exact date, but somewhere around there due to the vaccine mandate. And so their trucks went to rust for quite a bit. And So a lot of them were saying, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to gather. Anybody who wants to join us, they can come and join us. And so it just grew and it built and it built and it built. And we found more support from truckers coming in from the United States, coming in the tens of thousands coming up. And now there's currently an estimate, and I don't have the exact numbers because I can't find the exact numbers on it. Some reports are saying 50,000, some reports are saying 100,000 truckers. We do know that there are over 40 miles. At the time I'm recording this, there are over 40 miles of truckers in a line in this protest, in this convoy going on. So this has really gotten huge. So why this? Why this place? Why the truckers versus, again, the other professions and the other things? Well, first of all, we know the truckers, they're speaking up, has one of the biggest voices that there is in any country in the world, because without the truckers, without the people doing the transports of things, we don't have anything. You're not going to get things in the stores. I mean, if you're in a community like mine, you might be able to go out to your farm stand, but those farmers are going to get overwhelmed quickly. And if you're in the cities, you don't get anything without those truckers. You know, I have a few things that I can get without truckers, but very little. You know, fortunately, I do have a few things there. But even when it comes down to it, most of us don't, you know, most people don't. And that's why truckers can make such a huge statement. So when they say, that's it, we're going to drive here, we're going to park, and we're not leaving until you drop the mandates. Now, Trudeau, he really wants everybody to believe, hey, this is no big deal, right? These are just a small minority of people who don't represent everything. So he's actually willing to put his entire country on the line, the lives of many people. He doesn't care about the many people that whose lives are on the line over the truckers shutting down working. And what happens is he thinks this is just, he's trying to convince everybody this is just a small group of people. They're loud, but they're just a small group of people. They don't represent Canadians. They don't represent the truth. They're conspiracy theorists. Well, there's no conspiracy theory around the mandate. The mandate is in place, done there. So this is not a conspiracy theory. This is not people making stuff up. This is not any of that. And a lot of the truckers that are actually participating in the trucker convoy are actually not against vaccines. Again, you have to remember they're not against vaccines, but they're against the mandate. And these truckers are having such a powerful impact that Justin Trudeau thinks he can just keep repeating these things like it's not a big deal and, you know, all of the stuff. And then, you know, like that's going to be it. And he's basically shut the doors now on the Parliament area. And he thinks basically he can just go away for the weekend. And when he comes back on Monday, nobody's going to be there. I mean, this is kind of really the mentality of what he's thinking about in here. And he gets on, he says, oh, I'm not scared of these truckers or anything. And then, you know, before today, you know, and before shutting his doors, he's like, oh, I've been exposed to COVID and I'm going to go isolate for 5 days. Well, I'm sorry, but that's just, we know it. We know better. We know better than this. He is scared shitless. He doesn't know how to face this issue. He doesn't know what he's going to do about it. Everything is rapidly catching up with him. So when you start to look at this, you have to understand Justin Trudeau, the same as Joseph Biden in our country in the United States, they run on the same life code pattern. They're both about shutting down freedom. They're both about restricting people. They're both about taking rights away from people. And this runs at a deeper core of shutting down divine presence in the world. When we look at the code patterns, it is about removing people's abilities and rights to think for themselves and to draw their own conclusions, their own opinions on research, on studies, on science, on things that are truly factually based. And so they want to distort that. They want to distort the mind. They want to restrict people. They want to put them in modes of deprivation and not give people a choice in things. And this is where the problem is. Now, the exciting thing is actually at the time of this recording, just before I started to do this, we're already seeing impact from this truckers convoy that's going on. So the truckers energy, as long as they are standing in the divine alignment energy, as long as they're standing in it, their energy is all about abundance. It's all about true abundance and the results that are beneficial and favorable that come from doing hard work and that are standing in enough abundance that they help to provide for everybody. They have a strong concern for humanity. So if somebody is actually working in the truckers as a plural collective aspect, they are working with divine flow on their side. That's that's a given, and they will work as hard as they need to be able to produce what is needed for people, to be able to get them the things that they need. And they have a very humanitarian focus as a collective. So this is a very, very positive thing that's going on. And then when we look at the convoy energy, now convoy energy is about exposing truth. It's about standing up to the lies and the deception and the manipulation, even if you are standing on your own. So when we bring truckers together and we bring the convoy energy together, what we're doing is we are seeing that energy pattern open up that is about standing up to tyranny, and that is about saying everything halts until it comes into divine alignment. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that incredible? This is why the truckers convoy is having far more results than any of the other convoys, protests, and things like that that are going on out there. So they really are truly about standing up to the tyrants, and they are really about showing the truth of where voices are being silenced in things. So this is a very exciting thing. Now, the fact that it's happening in Ottawa, Canada, and I've just got to glance at my notes a little bit here, but the fact that it's happening in Ottawa, Canada is also a very interesting piece, because Ottawa, Canada is really an area that is connected to unconditional love and peace. And so it's very interesting that the Parliament sets up in there, and when Justin Trudeau sets up in there, what we then find happening is the breakdown of unconditional love and the stirring up of hate. When you get somebody like him that is sitting on Parliament Hill in there, it creates his energy pattern on Parliament Hill is about upheaval, disruption, drama, things like this. So chaos, things like that. So it's no wonder things are kind of taking the turn that they're taking in all of this with him. And then when we look at the energy patterns of truckers' protest, again, that versus other types of protest, what we're actually finding in here is that this is going to become a teaching to people. This is a voice that can be heard. This is a voice that is not about manipulating public opinion or pushing somebody into a fast decision. It's about we are standing up, we are speaking, and we will be heard. And that is so interesting, because when you consider that, the leader of the Saskatchewan, where there's also a lot of truckers going into the Saskatchewan communities right now, has stood up and said that he's going to continue to push vaccines, he's going to continue to support them, but he will no longer support the mandates. So they haven't even been there really a full day, less than 24 hours, and you've got leaders that are standing up saying, we are not going to support the mandates. So this is going to put Trudeau in a lot of trouble. This is not good news for Justin Trudeau when you start to look at it. And Justin Trudeau is probably really panicking. I mean, he's probably, talking to Biden about how long can I hide out in the basement type of thing going on at this point, because with that leadership coming out and saying that, we can see how powerful the Truckers Convoy voice is, the truckers protest is. Now they're calling this a freedom convoy, and that's also very interesting because freedom is about responsibility. It's about personal accountability. It's about not allowing yourself to be manipulated when we look at it from a code perspective. When we attach it and make it combined with the convoy energy, what we find is the aspect of materialism coming into play. So the freedom convoy then becomes a stand against materialism. It's a stand to say, look, I can do without a lot of things, but we are not going to put up with supporting your greed, your power plays, your desire to nourish and feed your insecurities. We're not going to do it. And that's really what it comes down to when we get onto this materialism pattern in codes, is that it's stimulating from those people who are greedy, who are power hungry, and no matter how much they get, it's not enough. And that's the position that Trudeau has been sitting in. That's the position that they're in. Now, Canada in and of itself is one of those countries that really has strong transformational energy. So either, you transform or you break down, you break through or you break down. They're people that know about hardships. They're people that understand what it's like to get through hard times. And when you look at the people that are standing out there supporting the truckers, lined the roads for miles all across Canada, standing out there in minus 30-degree temperatures to support the truckers. I mean, these are hardy people. They're not people that are just all looking for free rides and easy pieces out there. So when Trudeau comes out and says things like, this is a minority, okay, 40 miles of truckers is not a minority. I think Trudeau's very mistaken about the voice of the people. And, he's tried to really squash it down and kill it and all of these things. And so the thing that concerns me in this, well, before I get to that, we also want to note who operates on this materialism pattern. That comes right back to the elite. The elite operate on materialism. So this whole statement with the truckers, the freedom convoy, all of this is really about showing the people everywhere, not just in Canada, but everywhere, how to stand up to authority, how to move in another direction. They have become the leaders. And this is probably going to become a pretty good power battle in there. Now, you will have some like the Saskatchewan leader who's going to come in and say, look, we're not going to battle you. We're not going to step down from our side of things, but we're not going to enforce the mandates, or we support not having mandates because there's not justification for them. But it also comes into this aspect of showing people where there's tyrannical behavior. This is one of the biggest lessons that's going to come out. And if you can show that in somebody like Trudeau, who seems so calm and so, oh, look, I'm into yoga and this or that. And I have nothing against yoga or any of those things, okay? But what I do see here is Trudeau has been that charm person, that person that's got the charisma, and yet he's got this ulterior manipulation underneath that. And so when we look at this whole aspect, if you can bring down somebody who is charming as Trudeau is, let's face it, he's not hard on the eyes, ladies. We'll face the reality of that, even if we don't agree with him. He's not hard on the eyes. So reality of it is that, if you can bring somebody like that down, you can bring the rest of them down. So this whole thing is really going to bring out some truth. It's really going to show where we have tyrannical and heavy control going on. And what we're going to see in this, because of the way the truckers are working, because they're standing in that divine alignment, they're standing in the true divine abundance patterns that we have in the codes, what we're going to find is that they will actually become the source of power. and people are going to follow their lead. So they are in an incredible power position right now. It's not light, it's not mild, it's strong enough to bring Trudeau down in things. Now, we have one other piece in this that we want to consider, and that is Trudeau's personal year. Trudeau is on a personal year of death, transformation, things like this, endings, completion. So Trudeau actually, and he just entered into this personal year, it's very likely, just like George Soros is on that kind of a personal year, he is going to go down. He is not going to make it another year in office. And this is going to be the start of him going down. He's going to rapidly realize he doesn't have power. And the more pressure that's put on, the more the truckers hold up, the more they stand their power, the more that they teach people how to survive for themselves. And that's a big thing that's going to come out of this trucker convoy, is how people can provide for themselves, how to be self-sufficient, how to be functioning on their own, and to think for themselves and to take care of themselves. And a lot of that's going to come out from that. And that, in combination with Trudeau's personal codes, when that comes around and things, Trudeau's still thinking he's going to get away with his connections and things like that. But what he's going to find is the stress, the pressure is going to come up, and the people that are underneath him, the people that he's been relying on to take care of him, are not going to be there supporting him. Matter of fact, they will actually be the ones that bring things out that bring him down. So this is the beginning of the fall of Trudeau, I think, in a lot of ways. This is a big, powerful movement. It's much bigger than just some truckers gathering and coming together. And then when you look at Trudeau's personal code patterns, he is sealing his fate with this. Because the more he stands up against truckers, the more tyrannical he's going to appear to people. And the more that that tyranny is going to come out, the more that they're going to see how he's trying to control everything. And that is going to be major for the rest of the world. Again, because all eyes are watching this. People are watching this everywhere. And they're realizing the power, and they're realizing who has the power. And some of these people that we have gone without giving gratitude to, who have not gone to the Ivy League schools and things like that. They've taken these jobs to support their families, work hard, so on and so forth. They're the ones holding the power right now. And this is a major turning point in energy. So what do we do in our individual lives? What we do in our individual lives is we want to continue to make ourselves self-supportive. That's what this movement is teaching us in the codes. We want to continue to speak up. We want to make sure that we are standing up to the proverbial and literal bullies, tyrants, controlling people, and saying, no, this is not what the most people want. And that we are taking those opportunities to say, this is not acceptable. We will not support it. We are not going to go there. We are going to hold out. And without us, you are nothing. And this is where you start to know your worth. This is where you start to know your value. This is a call to remind us to take hold and stand in your power. Yes, there's going to be those who are in control, who are in materialism, who want to fight with you, who want to fight back. You don't have to fight to stand your ground. And this is the important things. And yes, sometimes it's going to sting a little bit. But you know what? When you are standing in that divine alignment, when you are standing up for freedom and divine alignment, when you are standing up for doing a lot of things, what you're going to find is you can simplify things. You can get back to basics. And when you do this, there's less and less control over you. And the more you step out of the materialism, the only reason some of these people come at you when you step out of materialism is because they are so rooted in it, and they're so jealous and so envious of your ability to not be controlled by those things. And all of these people, when you look at people like Trudeau, and you look at these different leaders that are in place, and these these people that are standing in that position of power and control, they have no real power and control, because they are completely controlled by material things in the world, be it money, be it power, be it these things. So they have no real sense of it. Always remember that it is the people who are not controlling things, the people who are standing in freedom, those are the ones that have the power. So that's your call. Stand more and more in freedom. And that's it. I'm going to stop right there. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, hit me up. Make some comments. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the convoy? What are your thoughts on this happening? What kind of impact do you see it happening? Do you have some other topics that you want me to address from the code perspective? I'd love to do it. And I'm going to keep coming at you sporadically. I'm not going to, I can't guarantee any particular thing because I'm getting ready to start the Code Journey book, which is a book I put out every year. You can check it out at compassioncodes.com and see it. It helps us understand more about these world events that are going on, but also how to live our personal lives from a compassionate aspect. So take a look, check it out, subscribe to the channel if you like what you're saying, share this out, help other people see it, because it oftentimes brings a lot of understanding to people of what's going on and what's behind it and why one thing gets big and one thing doesn't get big and what's behind the currents and the energy currents, and to remind us that we always have the power to influence things. We always have the power to change the world by focusing on our own lives and paying attention to what we're doing. So let go of that materialism, simplify, and come back in to focus of honoring, respecting your freedom, and living through that divine presence, that divine energy, which is where we find the magnificence in the world. Take care, everybody. I'll see you soon.